Tiffany, I'm going to ask you this question first. What do you do when your daughter has to compete against a transgendered student?
Yeah, so I saw this article, and I saw a transgender male, and he was definitely above 6 feet.
Yeah.
So you have all these other women players that are around the same height, but he's definitely like far above them. How really, I mean, Corey, can you compete with that? You know, I mean, how can we compete with that? So one of the things I said to myself, I said, well, let me answer this question. Is it playing fair? Absolutely not. You can't play fair with that. You know what I mean? But with regards to my daughter, one of the things that I would do is I would encourage her, because that's probably really challenging if you're going in there like that and you're on the opposite team of that 6+ foot male. So I would just encourage her and let her know, hey, listen, you know, this is who you are, you know, encourage her in her role, establish her importance, and kind of go from there, you know what I mean? You could go a step further and, you know, talk to the president of the school or try to, you know, go from that standpoint. But, you know, I think you're really just going to have to encourage her, especially if she's having a hard time with it.
Yeah. So, gosh, when I got this question, I have to say I spent a lot of time wrestling with this, talking to other Christian friends, talking people who aren't Christians from different perspectives. There is nothing easy about this, for sure. One of the arguments that I think could come against this is, okay, but what if this transgendered student has been given hormone blocking substances that they're not, like the boy is not getting that testosterone and in place is actually getting the estrogen? And so does it make it more equal at that point? And so I started thinking about that. And what I did then was I started doing more research, right? Because I just think this is such a new issue that we're facing, that we have to be educated so that we can speak into it. And the one study that I was reading that came out said, okay, even if their testosterone is being blocked, even if they're giving estrogen, it does not change the biology within that. Their bones are still going to be longer, their lung capacity is greater, their muscles are biologically different than women's. And so even in the end, it is an unfair playing field for sure. So then what can we do? We can speak to our daughters, but I think we also have to start the conversation within the school if we're brave enough, right? This is the other hard thing. We can go to the school board, we can say, why are we allowing transgendered students to compete? Like, let's go to the root of the situation, because then they're also in the girls' locker rooms. It creates a safety issue. It's just important to have the conversations, to be educated and speak intelligently and listen to both sides.
Well, and who's deciphering who's transgender, who's really perverted,
Right.
and trying to get some weird space with girls? And also, what if you're the mom and you've spent a life savings and you've spent years driving to practices and showing up at games, and you've watched your daughter sacrifice and build and grow in a certain, basketball or soccer or something, and then, a biological male comes in and says, I'm a female and I'm playing, and they outplay your daughter just because of physical. What do you do?
Yeah, it's not an easy answer. Unfortunately, I think the answer is, if you're transgendered, that has become a choice, right? That has become an avenue that you can take, right? I think the answer that needs to be taken is, you don't get to choose which sport you get to play anymore. Unfortunately, that has become a health and safety issue. Right. How is it safe for a 6 foot tall, physiologically stronger person to wrestle or to, whatever the sport may be, how has that become safe for them to compete with, to run against, to, whatever the sport may, I'm not thinking of the sport, but how has that become safe for them to compete against a physiological female? There's a reason why men's and women's tees are at different points. There's a reason why every running, swimming record is completely different for men and for women because of those physiological differences. It blows my mind that this has become an issue.
Yeah, and you know what my question would be too is, where do we draw the line? Where is the line drawn? If we continue to move forward in that direction, where do you stop it? You know what I mean?
Right. I think the question too is, okay, sure, we talked about all what happens. Men and women are different, and we know that. But do I allow my daughter to play? Do I allow my daughter to go through that? Or do we make the hard decision to say, well, you're not going to compete in that if it's track race, or you're not going to compete against things. Like in our particular school, we're a small school that plays co-ed teams. And we do at times play teams that only have male players. Like on a soccer field, we're a co-ed team, but we play teams that also have just straight all male players. And there's definitely a difference, and we're definitely a disadvantage. But we know that going in and make that choice. If my daughter's worked her whole career in track or field, and this is a lot of time based on scholarships and things that they can get for college, but if she's just beat out, it's a total unfair advantage.
Yeah, that's so true. And to all of those that are struggling or, believe that you're transgendered right now, maybe even going through the process, we just want you to know that we love you, we're praying for you, and that God loves you and has an incredible plan for your life. And, I think these are real questions to talk about.